Major League Quad Ball is celebrating 10 years of play this year, so I wanted to take a look back and look at the history of the most dominant dynasty ever in Major League Quad Ball. Hello and welcome to Snapshot, your place for all news, history, and just chatting about quad ball. My name is Jackson, and whether you're a new MLQ fan or you've been around since the league's inception, you've likely heard of the team that's been at the top since the beginning. That team, the Austin Outlaws. Today we're going to take a look at their history, talk about why they've been so good, and why they're the most decorated team in the history of all of Major League Quad Ball. The league started in 2015, and the Outlaws didn't exist yet. Moving on. The Outlaws came into the league as an expansion team during the 2016 season. They found immediate success, going undefeated in the regular season. In their first ever postseason, they took down the Phoenix, yes, you heard me right, Phoenix, Seoul, and the New York Titans. Then they dominated League City in the semifinal before losing to Boston in the finals. However, in 2017, they came back with a vengeance, going undefeated the entire season. That's 9-0 in the regular season, followed up by a series win over Rochester and avenging their loss to Boston in the playoffs before winning the finals over Indianapolis, ending their season at a perfect 15-0. Monroe led in a big way in the 2017 finals to capture the victory over the Indianapolis Intensity to win Austin's first championship. Almost identical to the previous season, the Outlaws once again went undefeated in 2018 and this time defeated Boston in the finals to capture back-to-back undefeated championships. And already at this point, you could argue that the Outlaws were the greatest team that the league had ever seen. They had already won 2 championships and made 3 finals appearances. The Boston Forge had won 2 championships with 3 finals appearances, but they did so in 1 extra season. The Outlaws had only played the league 3 years, whereas Boston had played 4. And what's more, both of Boston and Austin's championships came off of undefeated seasons, regular and postseason. So with Austin only having the edge in that they've played 1 less year, it was really close between Boston and Austin. However, the 2019 season changed a lot. The league expanded in 2019 by adding 3 new teams to the league. Minneapolis and Toronto were added to the North Division, which moved Rochester to the East, and the San Antonio Soldados were added to the South Division. This gave Austin a little bit more of a challenge, but they still went undefeated during the regular season at 12-0. The likes of Kylie McBride, Augustine Monroe, and Bailey Fields anchored this Austin team as they had many times before, and they had a three-peat in their sights. The playoffs began, and the Outlaws defeated the Admirals in the quarterfinals and advanced to the final despite dropping a game against New York in the semis. But in the finals, the Outlaws were swept 2-0 by their rivals, the Boston Forge. After the canceled 2020 season, the Outlaws made history, and not in a good way, by losing their first ever regular season game. It was the final series of the season, the South Division Super Series, and the recent expansion side San Antonio Soldados took a 15-point victory over the Austin Outlaws. Now you might think that this was discouraging to the Outlaws team that only knew how to dominate, but it wasn't. And in fact, the Outlaws would only get better. The loss to the Soldados did not prevent the Outlaws from plowing their way through the playoffs, defeating the Admirals in the quarterfinals, then the Forge in the semis, and setting up a date with the New York Titans in the final. However, the Outlaws were too much for the New York Titans to handle, and Austin captured their 3rd Benefit Cup at the end of the 2021 season, bringing them to a tie with Boston. And Austin didn't skip a beat in 2022, where the Outlaws once again went undefeated during the regular season. Although they suffered losses to the Admirals and the Titans in the playoffs, they advanced to play Boston in the final. On their path through the playoffs, the Outlaws utilized the beating power of Taylor Tracy and a mystery player I'll get back to in just a moment to storm their way to the finals. On the other side of the bracket, the Boston Forge were heavily leaning on Chaser and East MVP Ian Skura, who had been an exceptional scorer and pace setter for the Forge. Shutting Skura down would be critical for the Outlaws. The mystery player was also the South Division MVP, Casey Irwin. Irwin made the transition from chaser to beater in 2022 and still performed at an MVP level. Irwin and Tracy's ability to not only recognize the key beat-out targets, but also win exchanges and avoid getting beat themselves made them elite. They were able to shut down Skura in the finals en route to Austin's sweep and 4th championship. Let me hop in really quick here and say, if you are not subscribed to Snapshot, please do yourself a favor and do so. It would really mean a lot to me. I've got a lot more quad ball content headed on this channel, so you're not going to want to miss it. With 4 championships in just 6 seasons, Austin had now proved to be the most dominant team ever in MLQ history, and they weren't done yet. 2023 would break another record for this Outlaws team. In 2023, the Outlaws posted their 3rd fully undefeated season, breaking another tie with Boston, going 18-0 throughout the regular season and the playoffs. This also set another important record. Austin was the first team ever to complete a three-peat. No other team had won 3 championships in a row, and Austin had 5 in just 6 years. There are some big names to note that made this dominance possible. Whether it was Bailey Fields and Cameron Castelaw making stops in the beating game, or big scoring threats such as Monroe, Andrew Axtell, and especially Miguel Esparza. Esparza set the scoring record this season, scoring 60 goals in the 12-game regular season. Jackson Johnson and future MVP Daniel Williams were also 3rd and 8th respectively in beater stops in 2023. Casey Irwin also recorded 10 chaser stops in only 9 games. This Outlaws team was filled with ways to beat any opponent they came across. There are many other players who I haven't even mentioned in this video yet, such as Jenna Adams-Tracy, Casey Beavers, Luis Sanchez, Mel Kite, and Michael Parada that have all played their part in this Outlaws dynasty. However, my favorite stat from that entire 2023 season has to do with average dodgeballs. If you're not familiar with that statistic, the average dodgeball metric records how often your team has control on a scale from 1 to 2. 1 being you only have 1 dodgeball, and 2 being that you have 2. This Austin team posted an average dodgeball rating of 1.70, meaning they had control 70% of the time the entire season. And that is simply insane. Unfortunately, the Outlaws core would not last forever. Moving into 2024, the Outlaws would lose a lot of key pieces and bringing in a lot of younger players. The 2024 Austin team was the first without longtime player Augustine Monroe, and many other players followed suit. The Outlaws only kept 13 players from their dynasty core, bringing in 17 new players. And even though players like Jay Stewart, John Alvarez, Maya Heinbaugh, and Brandy Gomez were good pickups that had a big impact, the Outlaws would go on to miss the finals for the first time. But think about that statement for just a second. The Outlaws missed the finals for the first time. First time ever in franchise history, not even making the finals. 7 years, 7 finals appearances. Austin is insane. The Outlaws lost to the rivals in the Forge in the quarterfinals. The Outlaws were a great team in 2024, but not to the level of the dynasty. And in 2025, it's not looking great. Many players of the remaining players from their longtime core are not on the 2025 roster, and it's possible the Outlaws might miss the main bracket of the playoffs for the first time ever. Peter Lawrence will be able to make big plays for their team, and Bradley Himes and Alex Vega will bring a veteran leadership, but the Outlaws will still be playing a lot of young pieces this year. And even still, it's indisputable that the Outlaws are the greatest team in league history. 9 years with 5 championships? Compare that with Boston's 3 or New York's 1, and no other team has a championship? There's no competition. But just why has Austin been so dominant? I believe that one of, if not the biggest reason why the Outlaws have been so good, is the fact that they are situated in a region that, for a very long time, had the deepest talent pool in the country. The city of Austin is home not only to the best collegiate team in quadball history, but also the best club team. The Texas Longhorns have won the national championship 5 times, tied for the most of any team. And when the national championship split into a collegiate division and a club division, the best teams starting out were both from Texas. The Texas Cavalry and the Texas Hill Country Heat. This shows how deep of a roster the Outlaws could build any given season. Players would start at the collegiate level, at a school that knew how to win, then go to Cavalry or Heat, both teams that had won the national championship, and eventually make their way all the way up to the professional scene. It's also important to note that for USQ, UT, Cav, and Heat all play in the Southwest region, which for a long time was widely considered the best in the nation. This means that the already talented UT, Cav, and Heat were also just playing against some of the top teams in the country, making their already good team even better. Having a whole system of teams that are all dominant in their own respective levels just goes to show why the Austin Outlaws have been the most dominant team in all of MLQ history. And that'll do it. Thank you so much for watching Snapshot. If you're new to my channel or new to the sport of quadball, please subscribe to Snapshot. I had a lot of fun making this video, and please leave a comment on which team I should make a history video on next. But that'll be all from me, so until next time, Jackson Vaughn, signing off.